My husband had an affair with an online gamer girl. I forgave him, but now he's pushing for an open marriage. Hey everyone, I'm in a really difficult situation right now, and I need some advice. I've been married to my husband for 4 years, and we've been together for 12. We've been through so much together, financial struggles, buying a house, and recently we've been planning to start a family. I thought we were in a good place. A few months ago, my husband fell ill and had to stay home for an extended period. To pass the time, he picked up an online game and started playing regularly with a group of people. One of them was a girl, around 30 years old, and well, long story short, he fell in love with her. A month ago, he broke down crying and confessed everything to me. He told me that it all started so gradually that he didn't even realize what was happening until it was too late. They started texting privately after meeting in the game, and soon they were having one-on-one calls. Eventually, she confessed that she was in love with him, and he realized he felt the same way. He told me that he told her it wasn't possible because he was married, but he also admitted that they continued to express their feelings for each other. He showed me the texts. And yes, it even escalated to sexting at one point. The other woman had asked to meet him in person, but he refused. He kept apologizing, telling me that while he loved us both, it was me he wanted to be with. He assured me over and over that he would always choose me. I was devastated and didn't know how to process it at first. I spent the night at a friend's house to gather my thoughts. After some time, I decided to forgive him. I could see how much guilt he was feeling, and it seemed like he genuinely wanted to work things out. I told him that while I was deeply hurt, I appreciated his honesty in coming forward and admitting his mistake. We had a lot of long conversations about our relationship and what had happened. I told him that I could accept that he developed feelings for someone else, but I was disappointed with how he handled it, and he agreed that he could have done things differently. Then just yesterday, he asked me if I would be open to the idea of a polyamorous marriage. He said that while he wanted to stay with me and have kids, he couldn't ignore his feelings for her. He suggested that we could see other people while still maintaining our relationship and living together. Basically, an open marriage with clear boundaries and communication. I'll be honest, I was shocked. At first, I was incredibly uncomfortable with the idea. While we do have several friends who are polyamorous, it's never been something I've personally considered. I respect people who live that lifestyle, but I never thought it was for me. Now, I'm trying to think it through and understand if this is something I could even consider, but the whole situation is overwhelming. I'd love to hear some outside perspectives on this. Thanks in advance for your thoughts. Update 1. Hey everyone! First off, I want to say thank you to all of you for the overwhelming support and advice. I know I didn't respond to every comment, but I read all of them and they gave me a lot to think about. After sitting with my thoughts for a while and having multiple long conversations with my husband, I think it's time for an update. To answer some of the questions you asked, yes, the other girl did want to meet him in person, but they never actually did. While my husband did refuse to meet her, I think a big part of that decision was the fact that she lives quite far away. Regardless, I got tested for STDs, and thankfully, everything came back clean. As for the polyamory suggestion, it turns out some of our polyamorous friends were the ones who planted the idea in his head, suggesting that it might be a solution. I've cut ties with those friends for the time being because I need to focus on my relationship without outside interference. I confronted my husband about how much his actions hurt me. I told him that while I appreciated him coming clean about the emotional affair, it was still a betrayal. I also explained that asking for an open marriage after the fact felt like he was just trying to justify and greenlight the affair. Polyamory is supposed to be built on trust, respect, and communication, things that he had already broken. I told him I felt disrespected and that I didn't deserve to be put in this situation. That conversation broke him. He admitted that he had been selfish and that he knew deep down that I was right. He just didn't want to face it. We both cried and yelled, and he finally admitted that asking for an open marriage was a desperate move to get what he wanted. He's deeply remorseful and has now cut off all contact with the other girl. He's given me full access to his phone and computer, and has suggested we go to counseling to work on repairing our relationship. Since that conversation, he's been showing me a lot of attention and affection, although he admits that part of it is driven by guilt. He's been trying really hard to make things right, But honestly, I don't know if it's too late. I keep going back and forth in my mind about whether this relationship is worth saving. Some days, I feel like I want to leave him. And other days, I think about all the years we've spent together and wonder if we can fix this. We've known each other for so long and have built so much together. He was there for me during some of the hardest times of my life, and I know he's genuinely sorry. But at the same time, I wonder if this is just the sunk cost fallacy. Am I staying because I'm scared to start over after 12 years, or because I really believe we can make it work? I'm terrified of the idea of leaving and having to rebuild my life from scratch. I'm almost too afraid to face the dating world again, but isn't that just a form of denial? Even if I forgive him, I don't think I'll ever forget what he did. He's been remorseful, but does that really change anything? Am I staying because I still love him, or because I don't have the strength to ask for a divorce? I feel like I'm losing my mind trying to figure it all out. I'm lost, I've lost sleep, my appetite is gone, and I don't even know what I enjoy anymore. I've booked an appointment with a therapist for myself because I know I need help working through this. I'm also going to give couples counseling a shot, but that's still a couple of months away. Thank you again to everyone who shared their advice. I know it's ultimately my decision, but it helps to know I'm not alone. I'll try to update again when I have more clarity, but it might take a while. Sending love to you all. Update 2. Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. A lot has happened since my last update, and I wanted to let you know where things stand. I'll try to keep it brief, but it's been a whirlwind of emotions. To start, my husband and I separated for the 3rd time recently, and this time, I think it's for good. After everything that's happened, I realized that I was in an abusive relationship. Not physically abusive, but emotionally. It took me a long time to see it for what it was, but once I did, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. My husband's behavior, even before the affair, was manipulative. He was constantly guilt-tripping me, shifting blame onto me, and using emotional blackmail to get what he wanted. I didn't recognize it as abuse because it wasn't overt. It was subtle and insidious. Over time, I became more and more submissive, always prioritizing his needs over mine. His request for an open marriage was just the latest in a long line of manipulative tactics. Since the separation, he's been desperate to keep me in his life. He's tried love bombing me, constantly apologizing, and even threatening to harm himself if I left him. It's been emotionally exhausting, but I've finally come to terms with the fact that I need to get out of this relationship for good. Today, with the help of a friend, I served him with divorce papers. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I knew it was the right decision. He didn't take it well, of course. He tried to remind me of all the good times we had, the family we planned to have, and the life we built together. But it wasn't enough to make me stay. I deserve better than this. I'm still scared about the future, about being alone, about starting over. But for the first time in months, I feel a sense of freedom. I don't have to live under his control anymore. It's going to be a long process to separate our lives, but I know I made the right decision. Thank you all for your support. I couldn't have done this without the encouragement and advice I received from this community. I'll be focusing on my own healing now, but I wanted to let you know that I'm okay, I'm finally free, and I'm ready to start the next chapter of my life. Story 2. Our best friends confessed they're swingers during a drunken night. It made me uncomfortable, but my husband seemed intrigued. My husband thinks I was rude to his friends this past weekend, but I feel like I was just being honest, especially given how inappropriate the situation felt. We've been married for 13 years and together for over 20. We're in our early 40s with 2 wonderful preteen kids. He's my college sweetheart, and he's the only person I've ever been with. Life has been good, or so I thought. Last weekend, one of my husband's childhood friends, John, and his wife, Leah, came to visit with their kids. They've been our close friends for years, and we see them every summer. We also take vacations together because our kids are the same age and get along really well. It's always been a fun time when we hang out, and this weekend started no differently. On Saturday night, after the kids had gone to bed, John and Leah suggested we hit the hot tub and have a few drinks. I'm more of a social drinker, so I was just sipping some wine, while the rest of them were drinking much more heavily. That's when the conversation took a turn I wasn't expecting. Leah brought up how their sex life had slowed down when their kids were younger, but now that the kids were older, they had rekindled the spark in their relationship. Then, out of nowhere, John casually mentioned that they had also started experimenting with swinging and that it had been an amazing experience for them. I was taken aback. My husband Mike was drunk and laughing, but instead of changing the subject, he told them that our sex life was great and that we never lost the spark. I was sitting there completely uncomfortable, while my husband seemed all too happy to entertain their stories. Then, Leah asked if we had ever thought about swinging or having an open relationship, especially considering that Mike and I got together when we were young. She even hinted that because I'd never been with anyone other than my husband, maybe I'd missed out on something. My husband had girlfriends before me, but I've never even kissed another man. Leah looked straight at me and asked, "Haven't you ever wondered what it's like to be with someone else?" That was the moment I decided I'd had enough. I told her that I had never wondered about being with anyone else because being with my husband felt like winning the lottery. Why would I want to gamble again? John then turned to my husband and asked if he'd ever thought about swinging, saying it could add excitement to our marriage just as it had for them. To my surprise, instead of shutting it down, my husband started asking them more questions. He asked how they got into swinging, how they met other couples, and even brought up the topic of jealousy. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Leah then asked me directly if I would ever consider swinging, and that's when I couldn't hold back anymore. I told her that I could never imagine another man touching me like that, and that I would probably leave my husband if he ever entertained the thought. I added that, for me, it would feel like cheating, even if he was okay with it, because my husband's love and attention are more than enough for me. That seemed to shut Leah up, and John quickly changed the subject. The rest of the night carried on without another mention of swinging, but the tension was still in the air. I was counting the minutes until the weekend was over, and they left. After they went home, Mike confronted me. He said I had been judgmental toward John and Leah, and that I shouldn't have equated swinging with cheating, or implied that Leah was seeking attention from other men. He said it's their lifestyle, and while we don't have to agree with it, we shouldn't judge them for it. I stood my ground and told him that I was uncomfortable with them pushing their lifestyle on us, and that he should have shut down the conversation instead of engaging with them. Now, I'm left questioning whether I was too harsh or if I had every right to feel the way I did. Was I rude for being honest about my feelings? I believe everyone is entitled to live their lives as they see fit, but the fact that John was essentially trying to convince my husband to sleep with other women felt like a betrayal. And I'm even more upset that Mike didn't just shut the conversation down right away. Update: August 13th, 2024. Thank you all for your replies. I never expected to receive so many comments, and I appreciate everyone who took the time to respond. After thinking about the situation more, I decided to talk to my husband, and things have taken a turn that I never saw coming. A lot of you saw things I completely overlooked, and I can't believe what's unfolded. Last night, after the kids were in bed, I sat down with Mike to talk about everything that had been bothering me since the weekend. I asked him why he wasn't upset when Leah implied that I should regret not sleeping with more men, and why that didn't bother him. He responded that, just because we don't agree with someone's lifestyle choices, it doesn't mean we should look down on them. He said that while I had every right to shut Leah down, equating it to cheating wasn't fair, and I shouldn't have implied that Leah was seeking attention from other men. Then he dropped out a bombshell. Apparently, John and Leah were going through a rough patch last year. Leah felt distant, and she had brought up the idea of an open relationship. John wasn't on board at first, but they decided that breaking up wasn't an option for them financially, and it would be too hard on their kids. John eventually suggested swinging as a way for them to reconnect and avoid doing anything behind each other's backs. Mike told me that John had confided in him about this last year, but he never told me because it was their secret to share. I was floored. My husband had known all of this for a year, and he never once mentioned it to me. I started replaying the events of that night in my head. John, Leah, and Mike had all been drinking heavily. They had gotten into the hot tub in their underwear while encouraging me to join them. Mike even tried to get me to drink more vodka, but I stuck to my wine. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Were they trying to get us to join them in their lifestyle? Did Mike know this was coming the whole time? I asked Mike point blank if he thought John and Leah were trying to recruit us into swinging. He laughed it off and said no, but I've been with him long enough to know when he's lying. I pushed further, and he finally admitted that Leah had asked him if we'd ever consider swinging before they came over for the weekend. He had laughed it off, thinking it was just a joke. That's when I lost it. I was furious. Leah had openly asked my husband if he wanted to sleep with her, and he never told me. I had spent the entire weekend hosting a woman who had propositioned my husband, and I had no idea. I was so angry that I couldn't even sleep in the same bed as Mike that night. I ended up on the sofa. Mike apologized over and over, saying he didn't want to upset me or out Leah and John because he thought it was their private matter. But I couldn't get over the fact that he had hidden this from me and then tried to get me drunk and undressed in front of them. I don't know what to do next. I'm furious with Mike, and I feel like I've lost trust in him. I think it's safe to say that I'll never be around Leah and John again, but I'm more hurt by my husband's actions. He should have protected me from this situation, but instead, he entertained it. I'm at a loss, and I don't know where we go from here. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed our stories and would like to hear more, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you captivating tales and new content every week. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We appreciate every one of you for being a part of our storytelling journey.